Okay, we will bring the meeting to order. Welcome everyone to the Planning and Strategic Initiatives Committee. We have a delegation for item number 1. Could we have Tushar come up? Welcome, Tushar. Tushar, if you can come to the podium, pursuant to Council's meeting bylaw, you have 5 minutes to make a presentation. I heard that there's a small presentation by the kids as well, so it's okay if it runs past the 5 minutes a little bit.
Okay.
That's okay, so we're looking forward to watching it.
Yeah, so the 5 minutes including me or only for them?
That's okay, you can make your presentation, and we're looking more forward to the kids' presentation as well. So.
Yeah, great, thanks.
Go ahead.
So my name is Tushar Upadhyay, and a couple of months back we celebrated Diwali, and Mayor Barry came to our place, and the boys and girls, they requested to have a fireworks during the Diwali time. So now we got an opportunity to present our case, and we have a couple of boys and girls. Now they're gonna say something about the Diwali and why City of Kitchener should allow the fireworks during Diwali time. So I want to call them one by one.
Great.
Thanks very much.
Hello, my name is Prapti Parekh, and we thank Mayor Barry who came to our Diwali celebration at Victoria Hills Community Center. We are supporting staff recommendation. He has given us this opportunity to present our opinion about fireworks in Kitchener for Diwali. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Ishani Dave. Diwali has the same amount of importance to us as some would have to Christmas and Eid, and it would be greatly appreciated if we could continue our long-held traditions. In Canada, when Indian families move here, they want to keep their roots alive and also want to continue the traditions that they have long held near and dear. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Hanil Desai, and we understand the hazards associated with fireworks. So we would like to assure the Council that we will do fireworks safely, responsibly, and always under adult supervision. We will follow the same safety precautions similar to what we do on Victoria Day, Canada Day, and New Year's Eve. For example, we will never throw fireworks at each other, and we will never carry fireworks in our pockets. We have reviewed the safety guidelines under current city bylaws and want to assure Council that we will show the spirit of responsible citizens and consider our responsibility for a safe neighborhood.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Gaurav Devecha. I'll tell you about the traditional and the scientific reason for doing fireworks. Here comes the mythological reason. According to a belief, the sound of the firecrackers indicate the happiness and joy of people living on our planet that makes our gods aware that they are in a satisfied manner and state. The scientific reason for doing fireworks is the fumes produced by the firecrackers kill a lot of breeding insects and mosquitoes, found in plenty after the rain. Also, maybe fireworks are done at night because that shows brightness over dark. That represents good over evil. Diwali is the darkest day on earth. The light given by the firecrackers ensures that we are going to have a fruitful, bright, and great New Year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. My name is Dvij Barot, and I live in Guelph, but I'm moving to Kitchener next year. I will be discussing the traditions of Diwali and why we do fireworks. Did you know there are actually 5 days of Diwali and then New Year's? We'd love it if we could get fireworks of all 5 days of Diwali and New Year's. If that is not suitable, then we'd like to keep the fireworks on the day of Diwali. If that is also not suitable, then we'd keep the fireworks the day after Diwali, which is the Hindu New Year, also known as Best Varsh. The reason we'd like fireworks is because Diwali is the largest and most extravagant celebration in South Asia for the past 4,000 years. It is the most important Hindu celebration of all time. Now you might be wondering, why are fireworks so important? Fireworks represent righteousness even in the middle of evil. Since Diwali is the darkest day in the Hindu calendar, this is emphasized upon. Last but not least, fireworks also spread liveliness. They make us feel excited for the next Hindu calendar year to come. Do you know that feeling when you see the fireworks on Canada Day or New Year's Eve? It makes us feel as one, inspired and enthusiastic. Now imagine the entire South Asian community of Kitchener not being able to get that experience of New Year's. It doesn't seem right, does it? So really, fireworks brings our whole community together like a family. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Kriti Bhatt. One more reason for us to ask permission for fireworks on Diwali and the Gujarati New Year is that it is part of our tradition. I was in India in 2012 to celebrate Diwali, and the memories of it are still alive in my mind. Fireworks, they add to the cheerful moments during the Diwali celebration, and we really feel like celebrating it like we did back at home in India. It will be greatly appreciated if we had permission to do fireworks in Kitchener, like surrounding cities such as Cambridge, Guelph, and Waterloo do on Diwali. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Kaustubh Upadhyay. And thank you, my friends, to explaining the significance of the Diwali and importance of celebration in our community. I want to sum up briefly about our points. In the human society, celebration is a passageway to the most profound aspects of life. Diwali, the festival of lights, is a time when we can dispel darkness and bring in the light of clarity. In the modern society, celebration enhances liveliness in the life and removes stress and tension. I would say celebration is contagious, and it is nice to see people sharing and spreading bliss and contentment. Also, Diwali is the last festival before the beginning of the colder and darker days of winter. It is the time of the year when Christmas is still yet 2 months away, and it makes more sense for the people of community to fill their heart with ecstasy, love, and happiness. After all, happy, healthy, and peaceful community is a showcase of excellent government, successful government. Thank you.
Thank you. Good. You guys did very well. And it's appreciated for you guys clearly pointing out why this is all very important to you all. So, council committee members may have some questions. Councillor Chernetsky, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Maybe to the younger generation there, or to the first delegation, the gentleman there. Where will this festival, or where will this fireworks take place? Where in Kitchener are you going to plan to do this? In a park, in a playground, at a church, or I have no idea.
I think the focus of this is for the bylaw, for the amendment of the bylaw, not as for the outlining the location in itself. But I guess we can request that information of staff afterwards. If you want to focus on the questions of delegation based on why this is significant.
I thought they would be able to answer it because I thought they're the ones that were requesting it. So.
Well, we can see if they have a location.
Or the first gentleman who spoke, maybe he could, as representing the group, could speak as well. I don't know.
Yes, sir. Do you want to come up?
So, yeah, one thing, at this point, we don't have any preference for the firework where we need to do. A couple of suggestions can be a park or a big grounds or like those area where it is open. But it is again up to the city that where, like what I suggest, like compared to me, city have a more clear and complete idea where to lay out the fireworks and like that.
And what time of year are we doing? I know you call it the Diwali festival, but when is that in the calendar year? I have no idea.
So usually Diwali is not a specific day in a year. Like it usually falls in October or maybe November. So end of the October or the beginning of the November, like that.
So one of the delegations mentioned is like it's 5 days of celebration. So it varies from one year to the other, but somewhere in October, November?
Yes. So it is a 5 days, but like 5 days, main one day is a Diwali day, where children are wanted to do the fireworks during that day or maybe the next day, because it is 5 day long festival. So it makes sense to have at least a 2 days celebration for the fireworks.
And my last question would be, is it sort of an all-day thing, or do you have it like in the evening at sunset, or what time of day do you do that?
So again, the thing is, because it always comes not on Saturday, Sunday, or it can be any day. So people have work, and so most of the time it can be done in the evening time only.
Sorry, what was the last part?
It can be done during the evening time only.
Okay. That's all. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thanks.
Mayor Bermanovich.
I just want to thank the delegation, all the boys and girls, and the adult accompanying them, along with those in the audience for coming this evening. I'm sorry I missed the first part of the presentation, but it's wonderful to see this group of young people here, because I had the privilege of participating in the Diwali celebration that Kelly Stice helped the community organized for the first time in our community. And this group of young people came forward and said that they'd like to find out how to do fireworks in our city like they do in Cambridge and Waterloo, like we do on Canada Day and Victoria Day. And so we talked about the process, and they approached our staff, and Ms. McNeil's worked with them, and Ms. Stice has worked with them to come in this evening. So I really applaud all of you for not only taking your idea, but following the process and working with staff to bring the recommendation forward. So hopefully this has been and will be a positive experience for you in terms of how local government works. So thank you for coming in.
Thank you. Councillor Marsh.
Also, just want to thank you for coming in and presenting your arguments. Very well done, very well prepared. It was awesome. And I have a question. Are any of you in between the ages of 10 and 12? Hand up. All right. So I'm going to leave along the side here something called the My Ideal City. And it is a competition. And I challenge all of you to, if you are between the ages of 10 and 12, to participate, and you have to tell us what is your ideal city, and then perhaps you'll come back and participate in the next part of that. Okay?
Thank you. Councillor Schneider.
Thank you, Chair Singh. I also want to thank you for coming in tonight and sharing a bit about your faith. My faith is different from yours, but we do share the same desire to have light overcome darkness and to strive for positivity. So I really commend you for coming in and helping us understand the reasons that you like to use fireworks as part of your celebration, and it really tied it all together very, very well. I just wonder if when you do your fireworks, are people of other faiths, would they be welcome to attend that as well and share in your celebration?
Everyone is welcome, because Canada is a multicultural country, so everyone should have equal rights to celebrate every festival in every culture.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Gazzola.
Yeah, I want to commend especially young people who are so interested in your heritage and traditions. That is a wonderful thing to have. It's really wonderful to see that. To me, traditions are very important. I do have, though, a number of questions. In the past, have there been fireworks on this feast day here in Kitchener?
We'd always have to go to other cities to do fireworks.
So we've never had them here. Yeah. Okay, I have a question of staff after. One more. I want to ask another question of you young people, and I don't know. I know one of the young ladies said that back home in India. Now I don't know if any of you have lived in India, but I wonder if you can tell me if in India they do have a celebration for Canadians there for July the 1st. You know? Does anybody know that?
No, I don't. I'm not sure, but I don't believe there is. But I think in India, if there was a Canadian community, I definitely think the government would allow that.
Thank you. That was a good answer. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, one second. Go ahead.
Yeah, perhaps I can just provide that clarification. In fact, our embassies are very great at organizing Canada Day celebrations in every country where there is a Canadian embassy. And India has both an embassy and a number of consulates, as I recall, and they would all be organizing celebrations of Canada Day there for the for the Indian and for the broader communities in each country.
Thank you for that.
Do they have fireworks, Mr. Mayor? Actually, that was my question. No, I have a question of staff, please.
Councillor Galway-Seelock.
Yeah, I just wanted to quickly say you guys did awesome. We had a little chat beforehand, and you guys really did a good job, and you've really nailed the answers to the questions too. So thank you so much for coming in and for being passionate and trying to make sure that we're being an inclusive community as well by incorporating this. So thank you very much for your time and your energy and all your spoken words. They really, truly meant a lot. And Mr. Chair, at the appropriate time, I will be willing to move the recommendation.
Great, thank you. And thank you all. So that's all the questions from the committee. Then there will be some more questions of staff, so you can take a seat. Councillor Gazzola, you said you wanted to ask questions of staff. Go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to, if they could clarify for me, when is it legal in Kitchener now to have fireworks?
Claire, you have to key in. Go ahead.
Through the chair, currently our current bylaw allows fireworks on Victoria Day weekend and Canada Day weekend and the day before and after both of those holidays.
Have there been other requests for fireworks at other celebrations in the community?
Through the chair, this is the first one that has formally come through to us.
Thank you.
Okay, there are no questions of staff. Yeah, go ahead. Councillor Galway-Seelock.
Understanding that this is a permanent bylaw that we're going to be enacting tonight, there's still the opportunity for community members to come forward on one-off basis if they would like to have fireworks for other celebrations in the community. Is that correct?
Through the chair, yes, they would have the same opportunity as this community did.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. There are no other questions of staff. Any comments? Okay. There are no other comments. I will quickly make one. Again, I've said this, but it's appreciated by the young people coming here and really articulating what how this is important to as a community to be able to celebrate a holiday that that not only is significant to as a cultural but also of the religious significance to it too. As a person who associates as a background of the Indian subcontinent, the comment that was asked of if something would be celebrated in India for July the 1st, I can say this much, Christmas is very well celebrated in India as it has a strong Christian population as well. So I would be very supportive of looking at the amendment to the bylaw and taking part and celebrating with our fellow citizens that take joy in celebrating the Diwali festival. There are other members of committee that have some comments. Councillor Ioannidis, go ahead.
Mr. Chair, I just want to have a recorded vote with the times.
Thank you. Councillor Gazzola?
Yeah, I was going to also ask for a recorded vote. At this time, I will not support the request that's before us. I may be wrong. I'm more often than not wrong. But this is somewhat like the flag issue that we've dealt with on several occasions around this horseshoe. And I would just prefer to see a little more research, a little more background from our staff into this before we go ahead. And we're basically, if we move along this route, we're opening up for this type of activity 12 months of the year. So I applaud the people. I applaud the young people for being so involved with their heritage, with their tradition. But I think in the fullness of time, we need to look We need to look at all the sides of this question, and I feel we really haven't done that much research on it at this point. So at this point, I won't be supporting the recommendation.
Okay. Councillor, Mayor Veranovic, go ahead.
Thanks, Chair Singh. I wasn't going to comment, but I feel I need to. I will be wholeheartedly supporting the recommendation that's before us. In fact, one needs to, I guess, one needs to reflect on a couple points in terms of the discussion around the horseshoe. And I guess part of the beauty of being able to come into the council chamber and the democracy that we live in is that there are differences of opinion. This is one issue that I personally would have hoped that this council would have been unanimous on, because it's a reflection of the diversity of our community, and that's something to, quite frankly, in my view, be celebrated. It's something that brings a lot of wealth to our community. In terms of being able to see different cultures, express their traditions, and for all of us to develop better understanding amongst each other through those activities. Whether it's participating in Diwali, whether it's participating in the Chinese New Year events, or many of the other cultural activities that happen in our community, it is something that both Kitchener and, quite frankly, our country are well known of. But having said that, democracy is what it is, and sometimes there are differences of opinion. So we will have a recorded vote, and I certainly do hope that the majority of council do support this, because in my view, this isn't a difficult issue to understand. It doesn't require months of research by staff. In fact, we only need to look at our neighboring cities in Waterloo and Cambridge to understand that this is a issue that can be brought forward without any great fear of difficulty and problems down the road.
Thank you. Councillor Janetzki.
I have another question of staff that, as a result of comments by the mayor and Councillor Gazzola, to ask staff on.
Yep, go ahead.
Gloria, the issue of having the fireworks and celebrations of this group of people from their culture, by lighting off the fireworks and having that celebration, would other people in the city, not knowing that this is a celebration taking place for their heritage and their culture in the new year, think that, hey, wait a second, now we can light off fireworks and other people will be coming out of the woodwork to do this? Do you anticipate a problem, or are you aware of anything happening in the other municipalities of a scenario, something like that? Help me out.
Through the chair, we have been approached by the Gujarati Cultural Association for the last 2 years, and we have worked with them in terms of allowing fireworks during Diwali. We have not received any complaints ever in regards to the celebration taking place, so I don't anticipate that it's going to be an issue at all.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So there are no other comments. So it has been moved by Councillor Galloway Seelock. It's recorded vote. Those in favor and those opposed? Okay, so the motion carries. So this has been approved by committee and will be ratified in council 2 weeks from now. And I'm very much hoping that it will be in the same format supported through council as well, and then that will further give direction staff to look at the changing the bylaw. So thank you for coming. It's very much appreciated, and you all did very well. Should be proud of yourself. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. We'll be reconvening the meeting at 7 o'clock exact. Okay, we'll bring the meeting back to order. We just had to wait till 7 o'clock as was advertised. So this is a formal public meeting to consider applications under the Planning Act. If a person or public body does not make oral or written submissions to the City of Kitchener before the proposed applications are considered, the person or public body may not be entitled to appeal the decision to the Ontario Municipal Board and may not be added as a party to a hearing of an appeal before the Ontario Municipal Board. So the first item that we're going to be looking at is for item number 2, zone change application for 1333 Weber Street East, Pameta Hospitality, Inc. We have a delegation. Kristen from GSP. Is there a presentation or just they're available for if there are questions? If there is no presentation, that's okay. It's just written down as presentation. Oh. Should have noticed that first. My apologies. I'm just going to have staff introduce the application. Andrew, if you can please make your presentation.
Through you, Mr. Chair. The subject property is addressed as 1333 Weber Street East and is located at the southwest corner of Weber Street East and Fergus Avenue on the edge of the Stanley Park planning community. Emmanuel Village Retirement Residence and Emmanuel Bible College is located across Weber Street, and Highway Center Zares is located across Fergus Avenue from the subject property. The property currently contains the Howard Johnson Hotel and associated parking. The applicant is requesting a zone change to allow future redevelopment of the property with high-density mixed-use buildings. The concept, which was created by local architect Andrew Bestfield, shows 2 12-story and 2 15-story residential towers for a total of 544 residential units. Street and pedestrian-oriented podiums connect 3 of the 4 towers along Fergus Avenue, while the 4th tower has a separate podium that is also street and transit-oriented. The 2 towers that are oriented to Weber Street East would contain a total of 1,300 square meters of commercial use at the ground floor level, creating a mixed-use building, 2 mixed-use buildings. In addition, proposed holding provisions would prepare the site for future redevelopment while preventing immediate development until local infrastructure upgrades, detailed noise studies, and a record of site condition have been completed. Staff reviewed a number of different technical studies, including shadow impact analyses and noise studies, among other studies that were submitted in support of the applications. Through the community circulation, 2 written responses were received, voicing certain concerns. one from a resident who lives directly across from Emmanuel Bible College on Fergus Avenue, and another from the owners of the adjacent commercial lands to the northwest. Planning staff provided a personalized response, written response to the resident, and did not receive any further follow-up. In early December, staff facilitated a meeting with the commercial landowners and the subject property owner's planning consultant, architect, and acoustical engineer in order to better understand the concerns and try to resolve the issues where possible. Staff did not hear back from the commercial landowners until today. We understand that this afternoon their planning consultants, MHBC Planning, submitted a letter to the committee related to the holding provision for noise specifically. The consultant requests to be notified of any applications related to the property and have the opportunity to provide input on any noise reports prior to the removal of the holding provision that's before you today. Staff is able to accommodate the request to notify the landowner and provide an opportunity to review but not to provide input on any future noise reports, since such reports are technical in nature and prepared by licensed acoustical engineers in conjunction with applicable provincial legislation. Staff is satisfied that the noise issue has been adequately addressed and as outlined in the staff report. Highlights and conclusions. The proposed zone change allows the redevelopment and intensification of an underutilized property with high-density, mixed-use buildings. It would require ground floor commercial use within the buildings fronting Weber Street, creating an actual mixed use within individual buildings. It would facilitate compact development, as outlined in the official plan, with pedestrian-oriented and street-oriented development. It would appropriately manage impacts to and from abutting properties, including shadow impact and noise. It would ensure necessary studies and upgrades will be completed before redevelopment occurs, and it's in line with city, regional, and provincial legislation. Accordingly, staff recommends that the application be approved and the urban design brief be adopted. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Ms. Barsdale, you can come forward and make a presentation if you have one. Thank you. You have 5 minutes. Go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Kristen Barrisdale, planner with GSP Group. We're the agents acting on behalf of Pamada Hospitality, Inc. Mr. Cam Patel from Pamada Hospitality here is in the audience, as well as Andrew Belsfield, the architect responsible for the design of the building. So if there are any questions at the end of my presentation, either one of them could answer questions that I'm unable to answer. A brief overview of my presentation. I'll give a brief overview of the proposed development, an overview of the proposed zone change application, a summary of the supporting studies and reports that were submitted with the application, identify the next steps in the process, and then I'm available for any questions or discussions. So the graphic that you see is the proposed site plan concept for the proposed development. Buildings A and B along Weber Street are 12 stories in height. Building A has a total of 124 units. Building B has a total of 91 units. And as Mr. Pennell touched on, there is a retail commercial space available in the bottom of the building or ground floor of the building along Weber Street. Buildings C and D, tucked in behind, are both 15 stories in height. Building C has a total of 165 units. Building D has 164 units for a total of 544 units on site. Parking for the site or access to the site is off of Weber Street, as well as additional driveway access off of Ferguson. The project will be supported by underground parking with some short-term space, surface parking for retail provided at the rear of the buildings. There is a total of 618 parking spaces provided on site. In addition, there is rooftop amenity areas as well as internal common amenity rooms for future residents. So this is an elevation, a view from Fergus as if you were standing in the Zayres parking lot. As you can see from this graphic, all buildings have been designed with a 4-story podium at the base and then building step backs after the 4th floor for the towers. You can see the differentiation in height for the shorter 12-story buildings along Weber Street and the 15-story buildings at the rear of the property. There's also been designed to allow for sufficient spatial separation between the two buildings. This is a concept or an image from Weber Street. Podium B of the building, which is on the right side, has been modified slightly to accommodate the curve in Weber Street that exists at this location and to take account to vehicular sight lines. And again, retail commercial uses will be provided along this frontage. This is a view as if you were standing on the beer store parking lot. Depicts the setback or the difference between building B and building A that exists along Weber Street, again, to reflect the curve in the road. And this is a view from Highway 8. So the tallest buildings are located at the rear of the property. It maintains the required setback. MTO has a setback requirement along all of their right-of-ways for 14 meters. This is a bird's eye view of the proposed development as if you were looking at it over top of Highway 8. You can see the beer store in the foreground as well as Emmanuel Village. Another perspective at the intersection of Weber Street and Fergus. Again, you can see Emmanuel Village on the right-hand side there. And then finally, a streetscape perspective of what the proposed development would look like more at the street level, again at the intersection of Weber and Fergus. The proposed multiple residential and mixed uses are permitted within the existing policy. The property is located within a built-up area and along a planned transit route. It's also located within a mixed-use node as identified in the City of Kitchener's official plan. The purpose of the application is to change the zoning from arterial commercial to high-intensity mixed-use corridor with some special regulations to take into consideration the specifics of the site. Those include side and front yard setbacks, ground floor facade, minimum floor space ratio, maximum retail space, and both tower and podium height. The proposed zone change application also includes a holding provision for the completion of a record of site condition, a holding provision that requires more detailed noise studies to be done for each of the towers, and a holding provision that can only be lifted once the force main along Weber Street has been completed. Supporting studies that were submitted include planning justification, urban design brief, transportation impact study, transportation to management options report, stationary and vehicular noise, and sanitary capacity analysis. Next steps would be to submit to the MOE and receive acknowledgement of a record of site condition. Would require confirmation of the completion of the sanitary force main upgrades. And most importantly, each building in the overall site would have to go through a detailed site plan application, which would include a detailed noise assessment at that time. So the noise assessment that was done on the site basically confirmed the appropriateness of the mixed use and residential uses as proposed, whereas a detailed noise analysis would assess different building materials, construction materials, considerations, etc., that should be incorporated into the ultimate development of the site. That concludes my presentation, and I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Kristen. There are some questions of committee. Mayor Ravenovic, go ahead.
Thank you very much, and thanks for the presentation. I, generally speaking, like what I'm seeing here. My question, though, has to do with the Weber Street access to the property, and having known this area for some time. As the previous ward representative, I'm concerned about left ins from Weber Street and left outs. Whatever the geometrics, I guess, of the curve there are already problematic throughout that area in terms of people moving in and out. From the gas station and at the beer store there's a light, so that certainly is helping there. That light may help, but also may create some challenges at times as well with stacking, and speed sometimes through there are a problem right now. So will the permanent sort of access points be dealt with through site plan later on, or is this the time when we would have to deal with this? And this might be a question for you or for our staff.
Go ahead, Andrew.
Through you, Mr. Chair. The access will be looked at in further detail through the site plan application. The region did take a look at the site concept that was submitted by GSP, and they did make some recommendations based on and recommended that the buildings be no closer to the road than a certain distance. But they will take a look at the actual access much more in detail. They may look at cross sections or left-hand turn lanes or exact location through the site plan process, but they did not have any additional concerns as part of the when they reviewed the site concept.
Like I think with Fergus Ave being there, I mean, that would be the preferred route for people to be taking, quite frankly, and I would really urge a very close look at that, because the GTO is problematic right now, and putting 500 units there with potentially 1 or 1.5 cars each, maybe less, but that would cause me some anxiety knowing that area. But otherwise, it seems like a great project.
Through you, Mr. Chair, there was actually extensive back and forth with the region with regards to the sight lines and the traffic impact study. And some of the sight lines and recommendations that were completed through the traffic impact study and then further review by the region actually dictated some tweaking and redesign that actually went into the development of the site. So as Mr. Pinnell had mentioned, the buildings were actually pushed further back from Weber Street. And that's one of the reasons why we're establishing a larger, or requesting a larger setback along that frontage, is to make sure that those sight lines, as agreed to with the region, are maintained regardless of how the site develops.
Yep, and I appreciate the sight line part of it. It's the concern is just knowing the traffic in that area. I fill up at that and get to my coffee at that Tim Hortons regularly, so I just know what it's like getting out. So anyway, I'll leave that with everyone.
Councillor Janetsky?
Is there another delegation from to appear from McNaughton, Hermston, Britton, Clarkson? Or
There is no other presentation.
I'm sorry?
There is no other delegation.
Okay. I see we have the letter of concern, I guess, expressed by MHBC. This is in regards to the noise issue, and I'm just trying to put my head around it. And in your presentation, Mr. Pinnell, you sort of acknowledged that there'll be an opportunity for MHBC to review but have no input. Is that correct? Is that the way you said it?
That's correct. The holding provision removal process doesn't provide for public input. It's basically a condition that the region would clear once they receive detailed noise studies confirming that the design of the building is okay.
So I'm just trying to understand, and I know how noise studies basically work, but what I'm trying to understand is their concern seems to be from the beer store that's next door, and they've been there for years, and so they've got their loading, unloading, and trucks coming and going. Is that the issue is with them in terms of their trucks?
That's one of their concerns, through you, Mr. Chair. It's their concern from our meetings was that that residents of this future residential tower may end up complaining, whether at council or elsewhere, about the operations, specifically the shipping loading area.
Okay, and I can appreciate that, but I thought if they were really seriously concerned about it, somebody would have appeared from them to make their presentation and arguments here before council. So I don't hold too much against that. The second question I have pertains to the holding zone for the servicing of the site, subject to the Freeport pumping station.
Councillor, do you have questions of the delegation?
No, it's Mr. Pinnell.
Okay, there's no one else in queue for questions, so thank you, Kristen. Go ahead with your question.
Yeah, sorry about that. With regard to servicing, if you want to put a holding zone on it because there's an issue in regards to providing services to the Freeport, and I can understand, I can appreciate that. But Freeport just expanded in terms of what they've been doing. So what is the issue here if we already had an expansion?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the sanitary service upgrades at the station itself have been completed, but the capacity isn't available at least to this particular site or this particular area, until such time as the force mains that connect to the pumping station have been upgraded. So the station itself is fine, but the pipes to the station are not okay.
But didn't we just put expansion force main pipes across Fairway Road? Another one, I think, is going to go across River Road or something. I'm not sure exactly where it's located, but wasn't that the whole issue, is to expand the whole area? And now we seem to be having a problem before you even got the first job done. Is that right? Or
it's my understanding that the upgrades to the station itself have been completed, but they can't take advantage of the increased capacity at the station until the actual dual force mains are upgraded.
I'm not going to understand that. So you got 4 buildings here. Could they go in stages, and maybe one of the buildings or 2 of the buildings or whatever could be held back for the servicing issue? Maybe can one go ahead? Because I don't know.
Our engineering services division has stated that there isn't capacity for even the first phase at this point until those force mains have been upgraded. So
and when will that happen?
The current date that we have is 2025, so it is some time. It could be sooner, but that's the date that I've been given by engineering services.
So if we're looking at 2025, isn't this application premature, like 9 years ahead of time?
The applicant has the right under the Planning Act to submit an application, and we review it under the current legislation and time frame, and our engineering department is found it satisfactory to proceed with the application as long as the holding provision was applied for. And there is potential that that date could be moved up. I'm not aware of engineering's exact plans for that particular project.
Is this a development charge force main expansion, or is this a taxpayer one?
We're not sure. I have to confirm with our engineering division.
So maybe we're premature here.
And that's why the holding provision is there, Councillor.
Well, I understand it, but I mean, we're sort of like, a decade. It's I can understand waiting 2-3 years, maybe 4, but I've never seen anything this far in all my history of my experience, 40 years, of waiting 10 years for the holding zone. That's just my comments.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Marsh.
Thank you. Yeah, I also am concerned. I just want to echo comments by Mayor Verbenovich about the principal driveway being accessed along that curve on Weber Street. In my ward, there's also a curve on Weber Street that is problematic for pedestrians, drivers, including school children, to navigate. And there's no principal driveway, although there is a roadway on that curve. And I think that if we can avoid that by approaching it in the urban design brief, I wonder if that's something that could be just a question of staff. Can we re-look at that?
Sorry, let me key you back in. Go ahead, Andrew.
Again, the access will be reviewed again in much greater detail through the site plan process, and we can flag that.
Well, yeah, and I understand that was your answer before, but I'm just trying to understand when we are approving this today, including the urban design brief, as it is, it does include the principal drive route through to be accessed through a driveway off of Weber. So is it important that we, beyond just saying staff has noted it, is it can we add more oomph to that?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we could put a statement in the urban design brief. We could make an amendment that be looked at in greater detail.
And okay, and so it's okay. Thank you.
As a way to flag it.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay. There are no other questions of staff, and there are no other delegations. Can I have someone to move the motion? Moved by Councillor Davey. And comments, Mayor Bevanovich.
Well, just before it comes back to council 2 weeks from now, like I will support it today, but I like where Councillor Marsh was going in terms of the urban design brief so that doesn't get lost. Can staff take a look at that and maybe bring back some possible wording that we could look at if we wanted to add that clause next and confer with obviously with the applicant as well in the intervening 2 weeks? But that is something that I think would merit consideration.
Yes, that's something we can do, definitely.
And for the council meeting? Great.
Yes.
Councillor Janeski?
I like the proposal. I think it's a very good development that's coming forward here in Kitchener. The nature of it is very, very well. I know we go through the zone change process, which is a requirement, which is standard, which is good, and they're going through it. I noticed that the applicant, the next door beer store consultants didn't appear, so I don't think they have much of a concern if they don't show up. The issue of servicing, if you can answer some of those questions for us for the next council meeting in terms of how it's going to be done and a little more details, I would appreciate it. I'm prepared to support this because I think it's a good development. It doesn't hurt the city, it just hurts the developer in terms of waiting that long. Now he can, upfront it if he wants to. I'm not sure whether that's a process that would be done on the site plan process as is done with subdivisions. That's something that needs to be considered. That's up to them, or they just wait the whole 9-year period, or however long it takes before the servicing. If it's done sooner, that's fine. But I think it's a good step forward. I hate to see this fall to the wayside, but I'm prepared to support it, subject to getting some further answers.
Thank you. There are no other comments. The way the concept design is laid out through the justification report, it is absolutely transformational, and I think this is something as part of our density guidelines and our official plan. We would hope this type of development to take place in that node. Again, there is a long period of waiting. I would hope that what ends up being on this parcel stays true or close to form as the way it's laid out in this design and concept. But I would be supportive of the application. So can I take the vote? All those in favor? Opposed? And that carries. Thank you. Thank you. We'll come to item number 3, and this is the zone change application for 547 New Dundee Road. And Brian, if you want to bring forward the application and make your presentation. Cue in when you're ready. Thank you. Go ahead.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, committee members, fellow co-workers, and members of the public. I'm here tonight to speak to a recommendation for the committee for proposed zoning bylaw amendment for 547 New Dundee Road. The subject property is shown on the aerial photograph that you see. Property is outlined in red. Is located at the southeast corner of New Dundee Road and Riker Drive in the Dune South community. The property is quite large, as you can see, measuring it's 12.32 hectares in area, with frontage onto both New Dundee Road and Riker Drive. As you look at the picture, you can see about the front 1/3 of the property is under agricultural production, and the remaining, I guess, 2/3 of the property is sort of treed scrub. There's a pond located. It's very environmentally sensitive lands. And then surrounding land use, if you look at the aerial photograph, you will see to the north, I guess on the opposite side of New Dundee Road, that's the Dune South community expanding quite rapidly if you've been out there quite lately. And then to the east, west, and south are sort of rural, environmentally sensitive lands. And then really the south edge of the property is the township of North Dumfries municipal boundary. Dementia Care Inc. is proposing to change the current agricultural zoning to a split zoning comprised of arterial commercial C6 and open space P3 to allow for a residential care facility. They're also looking at a sort of a limited range of commercial uses and formally recognize the balance of the lands as being environmentally sensitive. In order to determine that the boundary, I guess, between the arterial commercial uses or what's to be used for a residential care facility and the environmentally sensitive lands, a number of studies were undertaken, a number of engineering and environmental studies, and these studies were used to inform the zoning. In particular, an EIS was prepared, so a limit of development was established, and that this informed the zoning. And this was reviewed by the GRCA and the region, who also have interest in this matter. With regard to community engagement, staff received one response from an adjacent resident. That resident had no issues with the proposal, but did have some concerns with a number of arterial commercial uses that were being considered. And we've assessed those ourselves, and we agree. There are some that are considered inappropriate for this location, so we've excluded them from zoning. City and agency staff support the zone change, with the majority of the details handled through the site plan stage. And that site plan has gone through our site plan review committee, and approval in principle has been granted pending completion of the zoning. Just highlights and conclusions. This is a good proposal. This is good planning. There's policy direction supports the location of a residential care facility. This is the area zone C6 with the special use provision 453, and that the 453 is really just to recognize or to allow for a residential care facility. The policy direction supports the preservation of environmentally sensitive lands. This is the area of the property that's zoned to P3 with the special use provision 454. This project is good because it will assist in providing additional employment opportunities to meet long-term needs of the surrounding community. They are proposing a sort of a specialized healthcare need for patients suffering from Alzheimer's and dementia. And as my last point, it will assist in providing additional specialized healthcare for patients suffering from dementia or Alzheimer's for the community at large. Thank you for allowing me to do the presentation, and I'll be pleased to answer any questions.
Thank you. We'll take the delegation as well. Ms. Barsdale, you're up again. Again, you have 5 minutes to make a presentation.
Good evening again. Kristen Barrisdale, GSP Group, agent acting on behalf of Dementia Care. Mr. Ross Chapin is here from Dementia Care. Dementia Care Inc. is an organization that focuses on providing long-term care and health services for people with Alzheimer's and related dementia illnesses. They have existing facilities and services within the City of London and are looking to bring some of their successful projects and business plans to this area. Brief overview of my presentation. I'll do a brief summary of the proposed development, identify the proposed zone change application, summarize supporting studies and reports that were submitted with the application, review next steps, and answer any questions you may have. So this is a proposed development concept site plan that has been submitted and reviewed by the city. It is comprised of 2 full-time residential care facilities and 1 daytime care facility, all directed at the care of Alzheimer's and dementia patients. So the two buildings that are shaped like H's, those are considered the full-time residential care facilities. They're divided into two separate wings with a common meeting room and amenity space in the middle. Each wing contains 12 units. Each building has a total of 24 patients. In addition, each wing is designed to, or in and around its own private garden that's enclosed. It assists with the therapeutic treatment of care of Alzheimer's and dementia patients. The proposed development is also comprised of a daytime care facility. And what this is essentially a 9 to 5 type of program that offers care to those with early stages of Alzheimer's and dementia, individuals that don't necessarily need 24-hour care but are being supported from a health perspective by family members or friends who may need a break or who may want to involve them with some of the therapies that are offered through the center. It has direct access from Reichert's Drive with on-site parking provided between the proposed development and the boundary of the ESPA, or excuse me, the environmental feature. You'll also notice the future roundabout identified at the top of the concept on New Dundee Road and New Robert Ferry Drive. The proposed residential care facility is permitted in all existing designations. So as Mr. Bateman touched on, the site is designated arterial commercial corridor and open space. There is a special policy area in the official plan which permits religious institutions and residential care facilities specifically in this area identified as arterial commercial. And it's also identified as arterial commercial and open space in the Dunes South Community Plan. The intent of the application was to change or rezone the property from agricultural to arterial commercial C6 zone and hazard land zones. As Mr. Bateman had touched on, there was a request that was received by an adjacent property owner on the north side of New Dundee Road to restrict some of the commercial uses permitted on the site that would be typically permitted within the arterial commercial zone, such as building material sales, gas stations and car wash, sale, rental and service of motor recreational vehicles. We had no objection to that, and we concurred with Mr. Bateman's conclusion that those types of uses probably aren't appropriate at this location. We are also asking for a site-specific consideration to reduce the front yard because of the roundabout design and the development constraints on the site. There is a tiny pinch point at one of the buildings at the road widening that the region needs to take for that roundabout. Studies that were submitted in support of the application include a functional servicing study, which identified existing water and sanitary services along New Dundee Road, and would indicated that swim would be accommodated on site through a series of infiltration galleries and bioswales. Environmental impact statement, as Mr. Bateman touched on, which was a really detailed analysis of the existing environmental features and was used to inform the limit between developable area and non-developable area. There was an environmental noise assessment that was completed to assess traffic noise for New Dundee Road as to assess the potential impacts that the proposed development may have on those residential uses that exist on the north side of New Dundee Road. And there was a scoped hydrogeological assessment that was completed. The application or the proposed development has been submitted and reviewed by the City of Kitchener. The site plan approval in principle has essentially been granted with the exception of having to have the zone change application secured and put in place. Once that happens, we can move into final site plan approval, including detailed design. The intent or the hope is to start construction in 2016. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. There is one question. Councillor Janicki, do you have a question of the delegation or staff? Okay. Go ahead.
I'll ask the delegation first. You answered one of the questions I already thought was at the bottom, a top part, that little half moon, and that's the roundabout going in. Do you know when it's going to be built?
At this point, we don't have any real indication. We kind of keep getting, through you, Mr. Chair, we keep getting not misinformation, but different timelines from the region. The preliminary design work has been done to show that it's feasible at that location, but at this point, it's unknown. I suspect it will come along with the upgrades that are required or identified for New Dundee Road, and I'm not quite sure when those upgrades. They're a few years out still at this point, I think, 2020 maybe.
Okay, that's fine, but that's not going to hold you up in any way. It's whenever if the land has been set aside or expropriated, however they've done it, and then they can move forward at their appropriate time. You guys can still go ahead and do your thing, right?
Yes, the design has been undertaken to accommodate that future roundabout.
Right, okay. I have a question of staff.
Okay, and that's all the questions. Thank you, Kristen. Go ahead.
Just looking at the comments here from staff in response to the application, specifically with engineering, there's services in that area, because I remember from my years, New Dundee Road was not serviced, and I know there was supposed to be something happening. I know development has happened. So is it now at the stage where it could be fully serviced, or it's not going to be on septics, is it? Got to push your button.
Sorry. Yeah. Through you, Mr. Chair. Councillor, no, it won't be on private services. Actually, we've just completed sanitary and water servicing of New Dundee Road at this location, and that's to come online anytime now. So they will be able to hook up.
Okay, so the delegation's comment about starting construction in April of this year in the spring seems reasonable.
Yes.
Subject to getting all the approvals and the zone change and appeal period and all that.
Correct, yes.
Okay, thank you. At the appropriate time, I'd like to, Councillor Fernandez's word, and I'll be happy to move the application for her.
Okay, excellent. There are no other questions, so the application has been moved. If there's no comments, I'll take the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? And that motion carries. Excellent. Thank you, everyone. Meeting adjourned.